Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.
We're so pleased to have back on the show a friend of mine, an incredible Nashville-based singer, songwriter, guitarist with a brand new album out also, Daniel Donato.
How's it going, Eric?
I feel like it hasn't been that long, but I was thinking about it this morning, Daniel, to where, you and I first met when you were only a teenager, and now you have been in the music business half your life.
Half my life.
Starting out at 14, you're now 28, and you got a brand new, incredible album out, Reflector.
Thank you. Yeah.
So how do you feel that Reflector reflects your musical evolution in this, Daniel? Because I was telling you before we came in the studio, your voice is as great as your guitar playing now, and that's saying something.
Oh, wow. I don't think so. But I do feel that my voice is as personal to me as my guitar playing is. I think the album is I just want it to be truthful, beautiful, and good for anybody who is turned on by it. And it's a big album. There's 15 songs.
66 minutes of music.
Yes. Yeah.
Although also, your mom has a favorite song in this, and she was a little confused.
Dance in the Desert, yeah.
Because there's two Dance in the Deserts, part 1 and part 2.
Yeah. She called me. And she goes, these are you, this is wrong. The album, it's in the wrong order. I go, what do you mean, Mom?
Yeah.
She goes, well, there's Dance in the Desert. It's not next to each other. It's separated. I was like, well, it's a concept.
Right. And they're two very different songs.
Yeah, that's kind of the old principle of as above, so below. Light and dark, or major and minor, and just those great dualities that you can encounter in music. The same form takes place in songwriting, and when you get into improvised music, that song was not written initially to be an improvisable song, but it's really up to the song if it can be improvisable or not to a certain bandwidth. In that song, when we started touring heavily in 2021, that song revealed itself to the band and I in Cosmic Country of it's a stretch,
Right.
And so the desert gets dark.
Yes.
And it turns into a place of exploration, and it kind of takes on that hero's journey of dark and light.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love the duality, because listen to this album too, Daniel, to where I can hear your influences. You've certainly got traditional country in here, but also you've got, the West Coast feel. You've got some kind of Southern rock stuff. Also, you have Paul Franklin on steel guitar on 4 songs, the legend.
Yeah. That was
How did you hook that?
That was Vance Powell, our producer, because Vance...
Grammy Award-winning producer, has produced Chris Stapleton, the White Stripes. I mean, the list goes on, and now Daniel Donato.
Yeah. Vance had the idea to call Paul, and in classic Vance Powell style, I came out of the bathroom. I went to go make a coffee while we were doing overdubs. He goes, yeah, so Paul Franklin's going to be coming by next week or so if you want to come by and listen. I was like, okay, but you can know, so for everyone who is Nashville based that's watching this, not to be exclusive to anybody who's not, but back in the day at 3rd and Lindsley, a small venue here in town, there was this infamous band called The Players that used to play there. And it was the top session cats in Nashville, and they'd get together and play music to like 50 people, once a month or so. Right. And I would go watch Brent Mason and Paul Franklin with John Hobbs and Michael Rhodes and Eddie Bayers play. And I remember one night Brian Sutton sat in down there, and then Paul Franklin was astounding, from day one. And, so that's something too about Cosmic Country, is that his personality and his music on that record, on Reflector, really ties it in to be a legitimate country album. Right. Yeah.
But I mean, I also, with this, listening to the whole album, which I know our viewers are going to want, you got to have this on vinyl. But it's like, it's one of those albums to where, the depth of the songs. I told you this before we came in studio, Daniel. It feels like you are fulfilling your Cosmic Country vision. Like when you first explained it to me, and you're like going, here's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And it feels like with Reflector,
Yeah.
this is the evolution of that, because it's like you've got country in there, but also you've got Americana. You've got, you've got some pop songs. You've got a little bit of everything, but it's also true to your vision and your influences, even as a child.
Even as a child, because the child is still actively present and informative of my personality. And anything that comes from my playing is fueled by my personality. So the child has to stay alive. I feel like that's part of the responsibility of, everyone's a creative. Every human is creative because we're always changing. The child knows a lot, and that's something that guitar's always been there for me to have it's kind of my Narnia closet back into my childlike brain a lot of the times. Cosmic Country, that was the vision, and it's all faith-based for me, in whatever that means to anybody.
But it's also interesting to me on it, Daniel, to where, originally you got hooked on a lot of the rock artists.
Yeah, when I started on Guitar Hero. Yeah, well, yeah.
And, but I mean, it's like, and also certainly from your father's input. Your father plays some guitar, great man, and your mom and dad's input. But then also, you had an American history teacher who hooked you up with some bootleg Grateful Dead music, and so I can hear that influence in this album also.
That was all the intelligent design of the timing of it all is so beautifully orchestrated. I just marvel in my gratitude for it on an hourly basis. My American history teacher turned me on to the Grateful Dead. I mean, you can't really get any better than that.
I know you can't. Teaching and teaching.
Yeah, especially American history.
But then also, and I got to brag about you because you won't, is that then, you get to play with Bob Weir.
Yeah, Bobby.
And so does that feel like completing that circle?
When I played with Bob that night at the Orpheum in Memphis, I think it was February 13th, that was the night I solidified Reflector as the title for this album. Because I kind of had 6 or 7 different working titles that I was socializing with the band and my management and everyone who's in the cosmic circle, so to speak. And there's concentric circles of which, because everybody who comes to our shows and is in our community is part of that circle, but there has to be more of a nuclear measurement. And that's where a lot of these ideas that have yet to come into fruition start to become socialized and made manifest. But after I played with Bob, that was the night I realized that Reflector was the name for this record. Playing with Bob was like playing chess with Bobby Fischer. It was just
that is so
good.
well. It's like, because it's that interplay.
God, there is no, and he.
And also that connection from Bob with Jerry Garcia. You know what I mean? There's all those connections.
Especially getting to stand on, stage right, with him. It was like, Bob. It was really brilliant. He was able to communicate all the friendly, cordial, brotherly, loving, hugging parts of his personality at soundcheck, but when it came time to communicate through the music, that's where the serious and strategic and intuitive, mutually building something part came out.
Right.
And it became serious, but also playful. God, it was. I would love to play with him a million more times, and same with Bill Kreutzmann too.
Right.
Wildly different personalities. Yeah.
But once again, that whole Grateful Dead connection.
Yeah.
And
my mom would, so before, my mom used to work a couple jobs when she was first raising me as a kid, and so did my dad, and my uncle used to watch me a lot, and he was a Deadhead, and he was this kind of archetypal, drop out of school, go follow the Dead, and so hey, can you watch Dan for a couple hours, kind of a thing, and he would take me out on the beach there where my parents' apartment was, and he would play all Grateful Dead tapes, when I was 2-3 years old.
Oh my gosh.
So I have to think that some of the frequencies of that music kind of sowed their seeds in my unconscious, when I started listening to that music, it was instant connection for me because they were covering a lot of the Marty Robbins and Merle Haggard songs that I was playing with the Don Kelly Band at Roberts already.
464 gigs.
Yes, 4 hours apiece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cut your teeth there.
I cut several sets of teeth there.
But
I'm a
before
vampire.
before that, you were busking
Yeah.
downtown Nashville.
Yeah,
I mean, what a story to be doing that at 14 and now at 28, a great new album with Reflector that is all original songs.
Yeah.
And so all those years playing with Don, and I can hear some of the traditional country, which obviously you did with Don Kelly's band, and I saw you do.
Yeah, it's all we did, really.
Yeah, but then also moving it forward with the cosmic country.
Well, you have to, because the enduring reality of the spirit that creates the traditional music is still alive. But in order for it to take form and affect people in today, it has to wear different clothes than it did back in the early 60s, back at Capitol Records, when they were, Buck Owens and Merle Haggard were cutting singles. They were cutting an entire record in 4 hours. It's a different world now. And I've had the supreme privilege to not have had any shortcuts.
No.
And I've had to use my imagination and my personality and faith and love each step of the way. And it's just such a brilliant trip, really.
Well, I've got to bring this up too, to where Vance Powell meets you as a teenager.
Yeah.
Grammy Award-winning producer, and says, "Yeah, one day I'm going to produce your music. This is that day."
Yeah, I was 18. I was picking down at Roberts, and he didn't say anything to me. I didn't even know who he was. He was just he was a strange man with a big beard, and which
sounds like many people in Nashville.
Which Vance Powell still is that, by the way. But now I know him more.
All right.
The strangeness is explained. But he said, "Hey kid, you're pretty good. And you don't know this, but one day you're gonna want to, write your own songs and make a record, and I want to be a part of it." And then the intelligent design of it all orchestrated that, and thank God for it. It's great. Vance is a maestro. He was able to guide us through the dark forest of the studio, because we excel at the live show, and we can kind of guide ourselves through that with our own beacons and north stars, metaphorically speaking. But the studio is a whole different landscape.
Totally.
Yeah.
But I think that Vance kept the live sound with Reflector, because your band is so tight. I mean, 2022, 200 shows. You guys are constantly gigging. I keep up with you on social media, because we've known each other forever. But it's like you're just traveling all over the country. Coast to coast to coast, and I know, like we were talking to, there's talk of an international tour, which there should be. But it's like you're constantly touring.
Yeah, a lot of people. There's a lot of voices that kind of go to the polarity of you should only tour when you're doing records. Some people, you tour all the time, but don't tour all the time because you're going to kill yourself, kind of a thing. But I've always played all the time, and my gigs have always been really long. I've always been a working musician,
right?
And so the whole trip and the model that informs Cosmic Country is that of the working class. We're always working, we're always improving, and we're always taking it to our community and growing. And 200 shows is a lot. You can't do that forever.
No.
But if you're in your 20s, why not in the Kerouac style get out on the road?
And you're
go see
growing a
America.
fan base. I mean, you're selling out shows, Daniel.
It feels like a community. It does. You've
got followers of the Cosmic Country, and also your band is so tight. I got to bring this up too, to where your band played on Reflector. You didn't hire in the studio musicians other than Paul Franklin. Can't blame you. Yeah. But it's like,
we had to get one in there.
Yeah, but your own band.
Yeah, well, that's part
in
of the
studio.
Trip.
That's kind of different for Nashville sometimes.
It's very different, yeah, because I used to play on people's records as a session guitarist, and the emotional reality is different for everybody, because everybody's personality is eternally different. And for me, I need intimacy, and I need trust, and I need people that I know I can really relate to. Right. And I need to know people for a minute before that can really happen. Right. And the music is different when that happens, obviously. So yeah, and that was something I learned from Don. Yeah. Don would have phrased it in probably a more brusque way, but
yes, he would.
The value was that the band is going to be less tight if you're changing cats all the time.
Right.
That's the value, and he's right.
And and once again, Don Kelly, you know, with Robert's Western World, you know, being a fixture here for so many years, and like you and I were talking before we started the interview, so many great guitarists came out of that band that were forged in that band, just like yourself. But, you know, you bump into Don, like I bumped into him, you know, at a music store here, and I said, Don, why don't you come on the show? He's like, nah, keep interviewing my guitar players. I'm like, okay. And it's worked. But, you know, Don just wanted to do the gig.
Yeah, that's his. Yeah, he wants to go home and do all. Yeah, he didn't want to travel and do all that. You know.
But you know, also bringing this up for you, Daniel. You know, even when you're playing here in Nashville, doing shows, you're always the same Daniel Donato that I always knew.
In what way?
You know, as a teenager, there's no different persona.
Oh,
when,
yeah.
You know, when you meet you know, at a guitar shop or when we're in studio or whatever, it's always you.
Yeah, man.
You know, and I mean, it's just natural and just, you know, happy. And it feels like, you know, and seeing how much you progressed with your music is pretty impressive.
I admire that from you. Thank you very much. Yeah, because
Well,
you have a big ear to everything that's going on. So thank you.
Well, and I got to bring this up too with the music videos coming out from this album.
Yeah.
And your last album, I mean, come on, Rolling Stone was raving about it, NPR, all these magazines, Spin.
Yeah.
It's like, I've got a feeling that with Reflector, it's really going to take you to the next level on everything. Obviously, just coming out, you know, November 10th and all that, but I mean, it seems like that's going to take you further and that your fans are really going to want to hear more of these songs.
Yeah. Yeah, we're really fortunate to have a fan base that brings to us imagination and energy for dancing and love and open-mindedness. And they bring to us what we bring to the music.
Right.
And so we can all therefore serve the music and do the will of the music, and that's a supreme eternal pleasure. Yeah, I can't wait for everyone to hear Reflector. It's out now, and there's vinyl variants of it. It's available on the Cosmic Country store online.
Right. I got to tell you my two favorite tracks though.
What's that?
Sugar Leg and Loco No. 9.
Well, of course, yours are the instrumentals. Yeah.
Love them.
Yeah.
Just from watching you play, it's like going, I can actually see you playing it in my head when I'm listening to them.
Funny note is Locomotive No. 9 is the piece that I wrote for Master of the Telecaster when I was 18.
Right.
The
Which I still have
sequence.
that signed book. So
Yeah.
it's in my collection.
Funny fact, I wrote that on the spot. I got to we went to go film. I have this instructional book that I came out with when I was 18 that Hal Leonard put out called The New Master of the Telecaster, because I was a big Howard Stern fan at the time, and he called himself the king of all media, and I kind of liked the comedy that's involved in that.
Totally.
I got to the shoot that day, and they go, turns out we're going to need like an instrumental or some piece to open up the video. And I quickly, went into the green room and kind of wrote that. And so that piece always stuck. And sometimes we open up the shows with it. It's like the train getting rolling,
It is.
Yeah.
And that's what I knew this from, with your band too. What a great way to get everybody warmed up.
Yeah, it
And
warms
then-
them up for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you're warmed up. Speaking of which, through your years, and I mentioned this before, I think the last time you came on the show, to where I was so pleased at the NAMM show out in Anaheim to see you at the Fender booth on giant pictures of Daniel Donato with your Telecaster.
Yeah.
And I know there's been talk of a signature model, but I mean, you're playing your Fender Telecasters, and you've also got the Acoustasonic guitars.
Yeah, I use those less on the stage now. But yeah, I mean, Lord, to do a signature model one day would be a supreme pleasure. I just don't think I'm well known enough yet,
You're well known enough to be with Ernie Ball and Mogami Cables.
Mogami Cables is a good. So not every guitar player. I get a lot of messages online, and they ask, what gear are you using, but nobody ever asks what cables. And Vance and I really got down to the different sounds of cables.
It makes a difference.
It really matters.
When you're really on your flying your full Guitar Geek flag.
Which
which we do.
Yeah.
It's like in talking, with Vinny, our mutual friend. It's like going, here's this new cable I'm trying out. Well, come on, Mogami Cables. Incredible.
Well,
especially when the sound matters that much to you.
It doesn't matter if it's the thing that if other people aren't going to hear the aesthetic difference in your tone, that's fine, but that's not the full spectrum of reality. Another spectrum of reality that the performer and producer of the sound must be empathetic to is how it makes you feel affects how people feel it and hear it.
Right.
So if you're feeling it and hearing it in a way that tickles your fancy, then it has a higher chance of doing that with other people.
Definitely.
And that's the attitude and that's the personality that goes into everybody's tone that makes everybody different. There's no wrong or right answer. That's why you can spend so much money.
As we know, people like Joe Bonamassa. But it's like, also amp-wise, I understand you used a few different amps on Reflector also than you typically used.
I actually just pretty much used Vance's Blackface Princeton reverb and then one of the Chris Stapleton Princetons that Chris, I think, gave to Vance, and Vance, I think it's stock, I don't, yeah.
I love those.
Vance is wild. His whole thing was like, he puts the amps on hockey pucks so they don't vibrate on the ground, so the mics like don't pick up certain kinds of frequencies.
It's like a trade secret now.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of that tone's Vance, man. I really came to Vance with like the archetypal abstract artist. I needed to sound more blue, you know. I needed to sound more like
Which is fitting of cosmic country.
Yeah, it is.
I'm just saying. I mean, it's like, hearing the colors and with the music, but, also it's like the track where you're using the wah pedal. It's like, it's like, I like hearing the nuances.
That was Sugar Leg, actually.
Yeah.
Sugar Leg was using the wah on because he plays guitar and keys and clavinet and B3 and Rhodes and, and brilliant guitar player. And so that was actually him on that stuff. Yeah, man. Yeah. We really went for like an old Ray Flack, Jerry Reed, ultra compressed tone on a lot of these songs. Like,
I can tell.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
And it showcases you, but also, I mean, once again, for our viewers, they're going to want to see you live, Daniel, because, I mean, one of the things I've always enjoyed is how happy you are when you're playing. Just the pure sense of joy. And I think it comes through the music.
I hope so.
From back, your busking days to Roberts to now, 14 years later, touring entirely over the United States, selling out shows. Billy Strings comes and jams with you. You go play with Bob Weir and members of the Grateful Dead with Bill. It's like, things are going well.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I'll take it. I'll take it any day of the week. I really will. The tour, we're touring all the time. We have a tour in December that we're doing with our friends Eggy, who are a fantastic band out of Fairfield, Connecticut.
And playing Brooklyn Bowl.
And
on the 16th.
The tour ends in Nashville for the Cosmic Country Christmas Jam. It's the second year we're doing it.
And you said that without missing a beat.
Yeah.
Cosmic Country Christmas Jam. That's good.
If you say it 5 times fast, I'll buy you a beer.
And also there might be a few of your family members and friends at the show.
Yeah, the Cosmic family and the friends of all kinds. That's kind of what the whole trip is for the Christmas Jam. Is like because part of the thing with Cosmic Country is that it's a celebration, not a presentation. It's a celebration of life and personality and the emotional spectrum and states that exist within it. And so I want to personify that when we do our Christmas show at the end of the year. The celebration of life is what the holiday season is a beacon for.
Right.
So why not bring in as much life and personalities as we can onto the stage with us? Yeah. Everyone's gonna be joining us that's available.
You got to have some cool merch with Reflector. I was thinking, I was thinking maybe it's Jimmy Page-esque, but maybe you need to put some reflectors on the telly. Or, something with
I thought about the dragon telly. Yeah, I thought about
just
it.
saying.
Yeah. The thing is, I'm afraid of dragons.
Are you afraid of dragons?
Yeah.
But you can't have the dragon then.
Yeah.
But you can have reflectors.
I could do that.
Yeah.
I could totally do that. Yeah.
Or you can have mirrors and reflect back to the
The
audience.
thing is if I look at that, I'm going to be like, oh, my double chin doesn't look good from this angle.
You have no double chin. You play too much music. You're constantly working.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but we eat enough gas station food sometimes to justify it.
Is that where it gets like the cosmic food?
No.
Fuel?
The food in when you're a working musician, our level is anything but cosmic. Yeah. Once we start getting some kale salad, that's when it gets cosmic.
And you're drinking the good tea now too.
Yeah, my
tea.
tour manager's got me on the Japanese tea in the mornings, and it's good. Yeah. It's good. All the vocal
It's
stuff.
good for your voice, I was just going to say.
Yeah, my vocal coach Keith is hard on me about drinking tea and doing all the exercises and stuff. Yeah, I'm just so grateful to be where I am and have all the
and I
people
got to ask you
around
this
me.
to put you on the point. I mean, once again, working on your vocals and they sound amazing on this Reflector album. What was the advice that John Mayer gave you on your vocals?
it's different than guitar. You don't fly the same as you do.
That's good advice, though.
Yeah.
He's been around.
Yeah.
It could work out for him.
For him, and a lot of people that, it's kind of like the Freudian iceberg, right? So there's like a 20% of the iceberg on top and then like 80% below.
Right.
Some people, it's called the iceberg, is something like your soul. Some people connect with their soul on the part that's below the water, and that could be the guitar, it could be the piano. And then, but you need the voice to tell a story and do all that. And so that was some good advice that I got, and that's good. I have to prepare a lot more for my vocals than I do with the guitar. I can kind of you can wake me up at 5 in the morning, I could play anything on the guitar.
Right.
I
remember bumping into you at guitar shops, and it's like, and even if I wasn't seeing you or your dad, I heard the guitar, and I'm like, oh, Daniel's here.
Yeah, isn't that a strange thing?
It's like I can hear the notes and go,
It's always been that way.
That's Daniel trying out something. And
Yeah.
I wander over, and there you guys were.
My dad. None of this happens without my dad and my mom. But my dad had had a really active and still does participation in my early days of busking on the street
Right.
and sitting in with bands and turning me on to good music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think once again, we're turning people on to good music with your new album, Reflector.
Yeah.
Out now, they can, however you listen to music, whether it's through digital downloads, I would recommend the vinyl. Also going to see Daniel live.
Yep.
I want to make sure for our viewers, website, social media,
Yep.
all the great stuff, where should they go, Daniel?
The website's great, danieldonato.com. And then the merch store has everything, has vinyl, all of our posters that we do from our tours, all the Reflector merch, all of our pins. And then our email list is where we get, because a lot of our shows are selling out, and
Yes, they
people
are.
are doing the weird scamming thing. The Cosmic Country Club email list is where you can get the pre-sale access to all of our touring. We're going out on the West Coast in January, and we have a full touring calendar starting in March that goes all the way through December of next year, and all that will be announced sequentially as we go along. But we announce everything on the email list first. It's good. It's like just got over 5,000 people, so it's growing.
Yes. And it'll grow more when you go international.
We just did an 18-show tour, and 14 of the shows were sold out.
I saw.
Yeah. So, and I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that because a lot of people message me, and they're like, well, can I get tickets? And the answer is I can't give you tickets.
Right. So people may need to buy. Well, you got to feed the band.
Yeah.
You can't eat gas station food for free. They want money.
Yeah. That's right. And if I give you a ticket, I'll give it to you on like a 5.7% loan interest rate. And if you miss a payment, it goes to 25%.
And so also, on the website, social media, then down the road, the eventual signature model will be mentioned also, and other
One day.
interesting things.
Yeah, don't hold your breath on it.
I think I will. I think I'm going to have an early one and get it signed.
Well, you definitely get an
Yeah.
early one. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you and my dad will probably be the first people to have
I think
one.
I'll be in line.
Yeah.
I'll be in line for that.
I'd love for you to have one day. I can't wait. I'll hand deliver it to you.
And we jam.
You got my word on it.
Sounds good. I'll
Yeah.
tell you what, Daniel Donato, get the album, however you consume music, but Reflector, best work you've put out so far. I think
Thank
this
you.
is the evolution of the Cosmic Country and your great band.
Thank you.
And congratulations. I'm glad you found Vance Powell to work with, or he found you.
Or who knows how it works? Who finds who?
It's kind of cosmic.
The whole thing is.
I'll tell you what, you're going to love the album as much as I do, but please, please, please go see Daniel Donato live with his Cosmic Country Band, and you're going to thank me for that because it really solidifies the whole sound.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Eric.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.